Great. Look, it's fantastic to be here today. It's been a few years since I've spoken at DIB. We heard this morning about the drop in funding over the last 4 or 5 years, but there's no doubt there's been an increase in interest as we see here today, and apparently they're turning people back today to come to this event, so it's great to see, very much needed. It was great to follow Tui's talk, and it was to hear, I suppose, when she raised that question and the lack of show of hands of how we've engaged with the indigenous communities and traditional owners was really stark. So I think we've got a lot to learn there. It was an amazing talk. But there are probably some spaces where we can share knowledge and where we're probably leading the way a bit in dieback management and technology. So I'm here to talk a bit about that today. Okay, so it's a broad topic, and I was wondering where to start. We'll talk about methods and hyperspectral and multispectral technology. And I thought I'd bring it back to basics because we probably have a range of people here today. Some who know quite a bit about remote sensing and those technologies, and some who know nothing. So I thought I'd just give a very brief introduction to remote sensing. So remote sensing, where we often use these technologies, is comprised of two things. So we have basically a platform, and the platform is, the satellite, for example, that carries the cameras, the plane, the helicopter, or more of what we hear at the moment and in the news a lot is the drone, or UAV, or RPA as it's more correctly termed. Then we have the sensor or the camera. So this can have many varieties. So multispectral, hyperspectral, LiDAR, thermal, there are many of them. We don't have time to cover them today, but I'll talk a little bit about multispectral and hyperspectral because they're probably two of the main ones we've been using for monitoring vegetation health. So we've basically got a range in the spectrum or the light spectrum or the energy spectrum. And so here we look at the visible, so I suppose we have a point for it all. No worries. I can point with my finger. So here we go, we've got the visible, the blue, the green, the red, and the near infrared here. So a traditional camera has sort of the blue, the green, the red, combined to be a true colour opposite. So that's your normal camera. And we see that the light in those regions when we're sensing plants, for example, a lot of light absorbed in the blue, a bit of light reflected in the green, hence we see them as green often. Some light absorbed, or quite a lot of light absorbed in the red. And then this sharp red edge going up to the near-infrared plateau. That near-infrared that we can't see with our naked eyes is really important for sensing changes in plant health. So it's very important that we have sensors that go into that range, and these are our multispectral cameras, for example. Because what we want to do with Dieback, and that's what this conference is obviously about, is to measure changes in plant health over time. So that signature effectively changes as the health of the plant changes, and we can see that over here. And then the light absorbed by the plant and reflected changes. So we can see it changing in that curve over time. And I'll show you some sort of field examples of that. This is getting back into, I suppose, the nitty-gritty of the sensor itself and how that works. A little bit more. This is probably the end of the introduction, really. So we've got two things that we really consider are important when we're talking about the application of remote sensing for monitoring land and earth observation. So we're looking at spectral resolution. So we can talk about how many narrow bands you have on the spectrum, how wide are those bands. And so, for example, a traditional satellite we see up on the top left-hand side might have several bands, or 6 or 8 bands, but often they're quite wide. So when they're wide, there's overlap, there's averaging of those values we get in the spectrum, and therefore there's decreased sensitivity to picking up subtle changes or differences. As we get more narrow bands and strategically positioned in the number of those bands, our cameras and sensors can become more sensitive and precise. So we have that on the right-hand side as an example. And then we can have hyperspectral. So here we have multispectral, so several bands. We have hyperspectral. We're starting to talk about, 100, 200, 400, 400 bands. You can imagine the sensitivity of some of those bands, maybe 1.5 nanometers wide. So it's incredibly powerful technology, but it produces a massive amount of data. So hyperspectral cubes that has to be processed and crunched and turned into something that's usable on the ground. So they're the challenges. Then we have the spatial resolution. So here, for example, medium resolution satellite, maybe 25 megapixels, higher resolution, maybe 1 metre, and then coming into maybe half a metre or 10 centimetres or 20 centimetres, maybe from a satellite or a plane or a drone, maybe down to a centimetre with a drone, for example. So I was thinking about the title of the talk, New Technology, and you know what? It's not really new technology. It's been around for a long time. And we see our friend over here, this pigeon carrying a camera, and these were used during the war, for example, for aerial photography of landscapes. So it's not necessarily remote sensing being a new technology. And certainly even going back to the early research we did, and this is my introduction to remote sensing around about 2004, as a forest pathologist learning about this technology in GIS, I saw the immense power in this. To be able to do early detection of, declining condition of trees. So that was part of the Children Health Research Group at Murdoch, with Giles leading that. And we looked at using the land monitor data, which is coming out of CSIRO. So this is derived from Landsat, so 25 megapixels. And we were looking at change over time, so 15-year change in the condition of the vegetation through the chalk crops. So this is really the early work. What we basically did was we used that time series to look at, here were 4 pixels, so 50 by 50 metre quadrats, increasing in condition over that 15-year period. Orange was lost over 15 years, and grey was stable. So that formed the whole basis of our collaborative, integrated research that we conducted for years, our ARC projects with lots of researchers. We did all our research on lots of sites through the Chiltern woodland. And that was really exciting to be able to go out and validate this data on the ground. So I spent lots of time in the field validating that and seeing what that meant. Then when you looked at the high resolution multispectral, which we acquired over similar sites, now you start to see the difference in spatial resolution, but we didn't have a time series there. Okay, that was a 15-year time series, which was incredibly valuable for setting up our sites, so that we could then get this higher resolution imagery that then became a baseline. Okay, so that was really powerful, and then going down to the individual tree level. And as a result, there's been a lot of that research has been published based on all those sites, and continues to be published this year on fauna relation to those sites and so on. So it's not particularly new, but there are new technologies, and this is another example of that older technology, and this is a video that I made in about 2005 to school children to talk about the power of remote sensing. So here, the same sort of data that we use to set up those sites. This is derived from multispectral Landsat data, and now you start to see that time series change. So 1990 to 2005, the white is vegetation that's been removed prior to that time. The grey is fairly stable during that 15-year period. Blue and green increase in cover or condition over that time. You see very small areas. But orange and red is dramatic loss over that 15-year period. Bearing in mind that this is 2005, so a lot's happened since that time. Talking nearly another 15 years. So the picture from there on is going to be a whole lot worse. But that's very, very powerful data. And again, is drone technology new? Not necessarily. So again, after using multispectral change detection up in the Pilbara in 2010, so again, 8 years ago, we were using this sort of data to look at change in condition of the vegetation. So this is up around Newman and Roy Hill, that sort of area. You're looking at most of the veg being blue in colour, has increased in condition over a year. But in our sites in here, particular spots of red, okay, and we had these trees that we were measuring on the ground. Okay, so this ground validation, which is really important for that type of technology. So it's nice to get the sexy pictures and the change detection, but really we need to turn it into something that means something for the land manager, the people on the ground who are monitoring that. So here we had those differential GPS points. The challenge we had here was the alignment of those points in those trees with that imagery, which was 1 metre multispectral change detection. So then we brought in a drone. This is 2011, and these were our sites. So now you see that site. Now you see the difference in spatial resolution. Okay, and now you're looking at 1 centimetre pixels 7 years ago. Okay, so we needed that to validate that we're extracting the data out of all of this spectral data from each tree. We had to know which point corresponded to our tree on the ground. And sometimes in this imagery, a spinifex looked like a moulder. Okay, so there was no point extracting information about spinifex. So therefore, we were able to shift our points and extract the right data. So you need to have the right combination of data for the application. What has changed? Okay, so a fair bit has changed during that time. What has changed is that very expensive cameras that were traditionally mounted in satellites and planes, for example, have now been condensed in size and they've come down in price, so they've become more accessible. So here are some examples. Some of the early multispectral cameras that were being made for drones. And this was one of the first varieties of Tetracam that was brought out. Was basically multiple cameras in a box. Maybe that size. You needed a fairly large drone to carry it. Maybe 7 or 8 years ago that came out with narrowband filters on there. That was a good start. And it had some issues and continues to. Then those became much smaller in size. So again, multiple cameras in the box. And then we started to use these, various sort of sensors on drones several years ago, and the technology's changed quite rapidly in the last 3 or 4. So now we're talking about, a hyperspectral camera, sort of this size, tiny, small camera, 120 or 160 bands of information inside one camera coming through one lens. Incredible amount of data generated from that and incredible precision, but not easy to operate really. So then we've got scanning systems, we've got snapshot systems. And now in the last couple of years we've been working with a Dutch partner to develop what is basically a multispectral camera, all happening in a tiny little camera, several $1,000s through one single lens. That's taken them about 2 years to develop, and it's really close now. So we flew it for the first time about 2 months ago. It's doing what they said it should do. That's exciting. That becomes accessible to people in developing countries, farmers, small landholders, people wanting to detect dieback in small areas, for example. So it's quite exciting. And the next one is CubeSat technology. So the advent of CubeSats, which are basically satellites that are 10 by 10 by 10 centimetres in size. Okay, and they're now a couple of $1 million sending cameras into space. These are commercial operations already, and now we're starting to put hyperspectral cameras on those satellites. So again, that's really, really exciting. And Australia's in that space. This is using hyperspectral imagery. I won't dwell on this, but it's basically that camera you saw before on the drone several years ago on a wheat breeding trial. But now you're able to get full hyperspectral signatures of every single pixel in an area. So, for example, a tree with dieback, you would have potentially the whole tree. And we're here to talk later today about using hyperspectral for married canker and Phytophthora. So it's a very powerful tool, but it generates a massive amount of data, and there's a lot of noise as well, so there's a lot of issues to deal with. So the challenge really is around using or gathering that data in a way that can be used by the manager on the ground. That's really important. So the technology is exciting, it's expensive, a lot of money can be wasted on it, but turning it into something that's really usable, that's the challenge. So this is an example of change detection imagery back around 2010 and 11, so change over 1 year. This is WEMBLEY Golf Course. So we started acquiring that type of data over the golf course in 2009 and have done for every year since. So looking at the change in health. And Phytophthora through there, Arnold area, several other issues. And then lots of treatments have been applied to hundreds of trees in that golf course since that time to manage the health of those trees. So here we're seeing basically what we're interested in is the red, which is the loss in condition over a 12-month period. And that can be for any reason, okay, but it detects loss and it tells us where to go to on the ground as far as pathologists, what to detect, where to go to samples. So for example, pruning underneath power lines, but things like what we're interested in, sudden death of Banksias in a site. Okay, so that there, for example, the death of a limb on a tulip tree. So it guides us on the ground. So this is the sort of work that councils like the City of Joondalup have been doing since about 2012, and working with them to use this sort of data to then go to their natural areas on the ground and collect samples. And it's a really, I suppose, a guided approach rather than having teams and teams of people walking around on the ground. This is another example, so change over time. So you're looking at false colour composite, airborne multispectral, and then the change in the condition of that over time, we end up with a change detection map. So a 2-year change detection, loss in those trees is red, okay, and gain in those trees is blue, and that's using multispectral. So often we're not needing hyperspectral because hyperspectral generates massive amounts of data that has to be processed. It's overkill. Most of it's redundant. Okay, it's just more data to crunch. So we don't need to be getting it. We can produce this sort of data with nice multispectral imagery. Coming out of the urban area and moving sort of more into plantations and that space where, again, Phytophthora is an issue in horticulture and other areas, and mine sites, for example. But here, being able to have a snapshot using multispectral. So if you apply that multispectral data, you can basically benchmark every tree. So you can get a condition measure of every tree in that site, and then you can scale that and look at the condition of each of them. And if they're the same species, you can then start comparing them. So you might have these low areas of vigour, and straight as a benchmark or a baseline, you can go to those points on the ground. The real power, however, is in that change over time again. Okay, so here we're seeing, for example, areas of that sort of plantation state that are doing really, really well, the blue, but here the red areas and the pockets where trees have actually died over that time. Okay, and that's the concern. So as a manager, you can't have teams of people driving through rows and rows of orchards or plantations. You want to be able to go to those points on the ground and determine what's going on. And this is an example. So you can have the highest resolution RGB imagery in the world, which is fantastic to look at. So we can see this is sort of 5 centimetre pixel imagery. But here, lower resolution, but multispectral change. Okay, so changing the condition of the trees, clearly we see there's been an issue through this area. There's been loss and death and decline of vegetation. Something needs to be done. That could be pathogens moving through, it could be a water issue. So that's where the power in monitoring Dieback is using that sort of data. What's essential and what's critical, it's no good having the data if you don't validate that. And this is the validation. So in the urban forest, for example, what we do a huge amount of is go there, dig up the trees, have a look at what's causing the death of these trees, and then isolate and then determine what that is. And that can be several. It can be Phytophthora, it can be Phalaenus, Armillaria, a whole range of different species that are causing that. But often we're discovering new Phytophthora species or lots of them, and that research you've probably heard a bit about with Mohammed, who's done a great piece of work over the last few years, finding many different Phytophthora species associated with urban tree decline, which is a real concern. So we need to be expanding on that and managing the health of those trees. But behind the imagery are the numbers, okay? And so as scientists, it's the data that really is important. So the change in the cover of trees, for example, or the change in condition of trees, or change in condition of plots or bushlands, that's what, as managers, you need to be getting access to that sort of data so you can see where your trends are and see whether that decline maybe goes beyond the threshold or a trigger point where you need to act upon it. Okay, and that's the space where several local government managers at the moment is having those 3 or 4 or 5 years of trend and seeing what's truly lost or where are you heading and how do you need to manage that. Okay, and that's where the connection of data to managers is really important. So this is an example, 14 to 15, some of the early work we were doing in changing cover of the vegetation in particular natural areas for the urban forest, and then changing the condition. And it's important to get that time series because the actual change in condition and those spectral signatures may be due to climate, for example. So maybe a big drop in rainfall leading up to acquisition and they all go backwards. Okay? Then they may recover with that rainfall event. So the time series over several years is really important, not just a snapshot or a one-year change. Okay, so look, just to the take-home messages from this talk really, multispectral and hyperspectral technology is developing really fast. It's becoming more accessible for everyone. So what were cameras that were costing millions of dollars and then hundreds of thousands of dollars are now becoming more accessible at tens of thousands and even under 10,000. So that's only going to continue to change. And at some stage you'll have the hyperspectral camera sitting in your phone. Be able to use that. So it's going to happen. Matching the sensor to the platform and to the application is absolutely essential. That's really, really important. So it's that ground validation. And without that, then you can waste a lot of time and money and say that the technology doesn't work. The acquisition is the easiest part. So that's the easy part. Flying a drone with a multispectral camera, there are loads of companies that can go out there and do that. Acquisition is really easy. It's actually turning out into something that's an accurate product, taking into consideration all sorts of factors, time of the day, sun angles, cloud cover, and so on. And knowing the plant and the tree is important. Using it correctly, it is a very, very powerful tool for spatial and temporal measurement. And we've sort of seen some examples of that. And finally, the tool, I believe the power really is in this whole sort of cycle is detect, diagnose, measure and manage, which is really the key. So just finally, just to wrap it up, this is probably an advertisement for potential students, anyone who's out there who would like to undertake further research in this space. We're the major industry partner in a new ARC training centre with the University of Sydney and lots of other partners. And we're about to launch our new first CubeSat with hyperspectral sensor into space in January, and lots of UAVs coming out of the military and so on. We'll be attaching these sensors, and our interest is land monitoring and vegetation monitoring. So that's a space a lot of people are interested in undertaking further research to come and speak to us and have the fun of playing with some UAVs and drones.